Hello and welcome back. This is going to be my boom or bust list for this year. I'm going to be talking about players that for me have the potential to be superb or equally destroy your fantasy team. And I'll try to justify each one of them for positives and negatives. And I'll start at the top of the list and work my way down my list. At the very top of my list, I've got Jordan Howard. Now, Jordan Howard has got to return you this year in a large league 200 fantasy points because that's where he's going. And that's a huge risk considering all the things we've discussed about Chicago this year. I think coordinators will have the bead on him. I suspect that teams will put more men in the box. And I have a huge problem with Jordan Howard for this season. Equally, I can totally see what other people have said where they try to justify how good he is and what he could be capable of again in year two. And perhaps year one was a marker for how good this guy really is. And that does happen when it comes to running backs. But for me, he's on my boom or bust list because he's a player I really would have trouble taking with any confidence. What do you feel about Jordan Howard? We look forward to hearing your thoughts about him for this season. Secondly on my list, I've got Todd Gurley, almost for the same reasons as Jordan Howard. Gurley had a fantastic 2015, but even though he had the opportunity and the volume in 2016, he never really returned the round one status that you needed from him. Now this year, luckily, you don't need that because he's generally falling into round two in all league format sizes. And so the risk is a little bit less. But he still reaches my boom or bust list because, unfortunately, this is the Rams. And the Rams have kind of made a couple of steps backwards over the last 2 years. I don't think they've improved much. They certainly haven't done much on the line to make me feel confident around Gurley. And I kind of feel maybe we've seen the best of Gurley. When you go into the numbers on him and you start looking at what he achieved, a lot of his early success did come in that 2015 season in his rookie year. And after that, it's been a very, very long, slow car crash to where we are now. Do I think it can improve? Potentially, yes. I can see what people are saying. But equally, this could be another disaster for your fantasy team. And so that's why Gurley makes my list. I'm putting Marshawn Lynch for the same reasons here. He's another second-round target in large leagues. This is 16-league formats. He's been out of the game for 2 years. I have lots of issues with Marshawn Lynch. I remember the things that Seahawks fans had told me before he picked up his injury near the end of his career, abdominal strain. And they were telling me that they felt his best years were behind him and he looked like he'd lost a step. And I had to agree. Once he had the abdominal strain, it kind of masked how bad things were getting. It was very poor those last few games. So I'm very, very concerned. He's going very high for somebody who's been away from the game for 2 years. But he is falling into a good spot. I mean, let's be honest. The Raiders have a fantastic offensive line. There's a lot to like about the Raiders team, and maybe he is the linchpin, sorry for the pun, but maybe he's the linchpin they've needed and everything will work out for them and he will become exactly what we all think, a great player who always seems to be effervescent, always seems to do it and comes bouncing back and potentially becomes an RB1 really for next season. It's possible, but again he's on that list for boom and bust. Now I want to talk about a wide receiver, Tyreke Hill. I love Tyreke Hill. Last year he came in, he really was special, unusual for a rookie to produce what he did last season. He could do it on the ground, in the air, and obviously punt returns and kick returns. And the interesting stat that I saw this week actually that really validates him being on this list is a very strange one, but it's a good one. Why not compare Tyreke Hill's stats to what Tavon Austin did last year for the Rams? Now we all know how highly Tyreke Hill scored, but it will surprise you what a small difference there actually is. But what a big difference it came down to in touchdowns. That's the surprising factor. So what I'm saying here is Tavon Austin didn't score well last year. He was a gadget player. Maybe Tyreke Hill is being overdrafted, and maybe although he will receive volume, it doesn't warrant his ADP. He's currently going in round 3 of a large league. That's a big price. You need a 160-point return. I'm not seeing it this year because I don't think they can use him in kickoff returns or punt returns, and I think teams can gang tackle him a little bit, and that concerns me. So Tyreke Hill has to find his way onto this list. Now here's a rookie that has huge question marks in my mind coming into this year. Running back Christian McCaffrey for the Panthers. Again, high ADP, round 3 ADP. You're looking for 160 fantasy points, He is a round peg in a square hole. Their whole team ethos does not fit Christian McCaffrey. For one, Cam Newton doesn't really throw to the backs. They're a team built on pounding the ball through the middle. There's a lot that has to change. I was asked and criticised around this a little bit with other people. I understand this is why he's on the boom or bust list, about, teams can adjust. Well, yeah, sure, but it's a completely different set of assignment for players to get, linemen to get further down the field. The Panthers are not a team that isn't heavily penalised. They certainly have found their way onto that heavily penalised books, and I suspect these kind of changes add to that. And then, of course, you've got to look at what Christian McCaffrey will be best used at, which is someone who can work on the fringes, not through the middle. So I have huge reservations on him being able to return this kind of value. I do like him, actually, over the longer term as the Panthers adjust to him. Maybe 2 years down the line we really get to see the best of him. But I think for year one it's asking a lot for the rookie to come in and produce. And in our recent podcast, episode 4, Al highlights a very important stat about rookies, which is fair to remember, how few of them really return the value you expect of them. And I wonder if Christian McCaffrey is one of those. This next player, Devontae Parker, will really start to split opinion. There are many who believe he is about to break out, become an elite wide receiver. I see him as glass, and I'm afraid my mind has still not changed from that from last season. I saw him as glass last year, and yes, there are moments where you think maybe this is a guy who has huge elite upside, but I think he's always going to be capped for 3 reasons. These are the 3 reasons. First of all, he's quarterback. Jarvis Landry is probably one of the best clutch receivers in the game. If you actually compare up Landry's stats, he's very close to Odell Beckham. What caps Landry, of course, is he doesn't get the touchdowns, and this will be the same thing that caps Devontae Parker. There will be very few touchdowns there going around at the receiving game. We now bring Jay Ajayi in, who we believe is going to have a huge year this year. I believe he will, and that again takes away potentially catches from the wide receivers for the outlet valve, which will become Jay Ajayi. So I think Devontae Parker, at best, can he get 140 round 4 value? It's possible, but that is really the absolute ceiling for me. I think there's a much greater chance he actually doesn't get anywhere near that value and you're losing points by taking him. And that's how I feel about him. But everybody will have different opinions, and maybe if the ADP falls back a little bit more, he's great value. We'll just have to wait and see. Next, I'm going to take Paul Perkins, the Giants running back. Now, I do understand some of the things people have said. I mean, Al highlights that the guy is going to get pretty much all the work. He is pretty much their only running back, really, when you think about it, 3 down work back that they have. I do agree. But you're only looking for 120 points to return value on him. I guess, out of all the players I'm going to mention, he's the one that has the greatest chance to easily surpass the 120 mark and maybe do much, much better. But I have reservations. I haven't seen any explosiveness from him. There's not one bit on film that you go, wow, that guy's good. You just think he's just so average, and I'm saying under average. Actually, he's just so ordinary, and that's what worries me. Is he going to get supplanted by someone we haven't seen coming out of the rookie backfield somewhere? Someone supplants him because they offer a little bit more than Paul Perkins. It's conceivably possible. But he is at the moment the declared 3 down back, so we'll have to wait and see. But he makes it onto my list because there's potential for boom, but equally there's potential for bust. Now, I want to put Amir Abdullah in this list as well. I do like the things I've seen from Amir Abdullah. I mean, you can see in some of the game film how fantastic he could be, and you can totally understand why the Arizona Cardinals were thinking of drafting him ahead of David Johnson. He has that special quality about him, the X factor that people are looking for. And again, he is pretty much all that Detroit have got, but he does come with huge injury concerns. There were those coming out of college. He now has them in the NFL, and I do worry about the NFL workload and the pounding that running backs have to take, whether he's really built for it. And perhaps Arizona have dodged a bullet. You're asking for 140 points return to be of any real value for this season where you're drafting him, and I'm not sure he can deliver that for you. But there'll be many people out there who think the volume, the situation, and his location offers him the chance to succeed. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I want to put Ty Montgomery on this list as well for my boom or bust candidate number 9. I think he's obviously a favourite of the team. He seems to have the ear of the coach, but he is a project player, and I found him very awkward to watch last year. He never really looked like he was a 3 down capable back. There are some elements to him that, to me, give him a chance, but you're asking for 140 fantasy points. It's a big ask for a project player to come in year 2 to do. He does face a challenger in Jamal Williams, and I think that challenge is going to be very strong. So he's got to face off the challenger, and he's got to prove that he can be out there in all kinds of weather. There is a chance he can go supplant these numbers and turn into something pretty special in his second year in the league. But equally, the project could easily fall apart, and maybe Ty Montgomery gets quickly supplanted. We're going to know very quickly as training camps come round. Spencer Ware is my final candidate here. Again, big price on Spencer Ware for this year. He faces a huge challenge from Kareem Hunt. Spencer Ware is currently, you're asking for 160 fantasy points return for him to give you the value you need. He faces a very serious challenger in Kareem Hunt, who I believe is actually just as dangerous, if not more so. And I think they're the kind of team that are not afraid to take the necessary changes to be successful. I noticed recently that the coach got an extension, and the back office manager, really the overall manager, didn't. And that's very telling, because it kind of suggests to me that the coach in Kansas is going to be pulling all the strings. Now, this is where it gets really dicey for Spencer Ware, because from my in-sources tell me that it was Kareem Hunt that the coach was very interested in. I think Spencer Ware's days are very seriously numbered. Now, it could work out. Stranger things have happened. But Spencer Ware continues to take the lead early season. He has a fantastic start and maybe holds on to the job and maybe supplants his 160 points. But don't be at all surprised that at some point early doors by mid-season, Kareem Hunt has taken over the job and Spencer Ware has been a bust for your team. Anyway, that has been my boom or bust list. As always, we love to get your feedback about these players. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if you have an alternative opinion on why you think someone's going to do well or not so well, we love hearing those. So thanks for listening.